Okay.
Okay. Dry the palette out really good. We don't want this part watery. Dry your brush head off really well. We don't want it watery. And then give this a shake. This is gold. It doesn't really look that gold. That's why after we paint this real good, we're gonna hit this with gold spray paint to kind of, for this, don't fill up the palette tray, but you need a little more than that blue. I'm just gonna start with that much. You can always get more. And then with our brush, this is not super dry yet. So if you did this part, you might want to just start in the inside there and let that dry a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do this even though it isn't real dry. What we want to do is not get a whole lot of paint on the bristles, okay? We want to try to like kind of wipe that off on the side here and just get a thin covering of paint on the bristles. And what I'm essentially doing is going over the surface, trying not to dig down in there with the bristles and cover up my blue paint. So we're just hitting it on the top, on the surface. I can go sideways, I can go back and forth, but what I'm not doing is digging my bristles down in there deep and covering up the blue. So I'm just kind of skimming over the top of it and making sure to cover it good and cover it well, but not get, and if you cover a little bit of the blue like I just did there, that's okay. But try to keep your brush on the top, and what we're going to do is leave a little of that blue visible. And it's going to take a little patience, and keep on dipping your paint in, or brush in the paint, and cover it thin. And like that, we are going to paint this all in, trying to leave a little of that blue. As you can see, this finished one, you can see down in those cracks that there's a little bit of blue. Somewhere it's covered up, but most of it is not. So that's that. On the end, you want to paint the inside of the coffin like this really well. You want to paint the sides. I'm going super fast and super sloppy, but this paint doesn't cover real well on dry bisqueware. So you will maybe need to do 2 or 3 coats of it to make it look good. After we do this and paint this all, you don't have to paint the bottom. Don't paint this. But when you're painting the sides, you got to leave it on your placemat and go here on the bottom so you don't get it on your desk, and do that. Now I would need to fill those in with blue like I did the top. I'm going to do that later, but this is just a quick demo. After we paint, you don't need to paint the bottom here, but you do need to make sure to cover the sides really good. So cover the sides, the edges of your coffin lid here. You can go that much on the bottom, but don't waste your paint and your time by painting all this gold. You're not going to see it. And then if you have a mummy, in the same way that we did the blue cracks, you can do black cracks and just fill the, and you know, this might be a different tutorial a different day, but basically all I did was just get a real watery black mix, and I touched those cracks with black watery paint, and it filled in and ran. After that dried and I washed my brush, I went with white and I tried to go over the top so it didn't fill in those cracks. So here's what the mummies will look like after you do that. Kind of cool. And here would be the finished coffin. No paint on the bottom, paint all over the sides and the inside walls is covered well. Coffin lid, sides are covered well, bottom is covered well. You don't need to do that. All right.